God in Jesus shows us that God cares about us, God reaches out to us, God understands the sorrows, the struggles that we experience. We know that because what we see in Jesus willing to suffer for us. It's a beautiful thing, and we're thankful for that. If you're struggling to be thankful for that, it's not my fault because I'm really trying to help you to be thankful, you know? And we're going to try one more time this Sunday because this whole idea of being grateful for and having an attitude of gratitude for God's blessings and God's reaching out to us through Jesus, I mean, it orients our whole life in a better way. This whole season of Lent then, where we're using the springtime to look forward to celebrating the death and resurrection of Jesus, in this time, we're going to grow and grow in our understanding of and experience of that love and that grace of God. And in the midst of that, I'm trying to each week also help to kind of remove some of the barriers, remove some of the barriers between us and God and us and each other so that we can really experience that love and grace of God all the more. So one of the barriers, one of the things that kind of gets in the way of our experiencing God's love and grace and then also being able to share that with one another, is this whole idea of quarrels. The idea that you would go from a disagreement to then escalating it to a true division or a true fighting of one another, you know, that kind of thing. If we could not get into that and avoid those, then our relationships can be more like God loving us loving God, and us loving other people. So we try to put all those together. So in the midst of that, how many of you have ever seen a disagreement then end up dividing people, breaking friendships? Have you ever seen that? Yeah, absolutely. Me too. And it's sad. You know, how many of you have been like that middle golden retriever? You know, you got your friends and they're kind of at it and you're trying to make peace somehow, some way. Some of us even maybe grew up in an environment where, you know, mom and dad were just always kind of bicker, and you're kind of like in this middle ground trying to make peace and cracking jokes or somehow trying to just kind of make the atmosphere a little nicer, you know. I mean, this is a big issue, even for us in the church and that call ourselves Christians. So the funny thing about a conflict that goes from disagreement to then quarrel or, you know, fight, whatever word you want to put there, interesting thing is that it doesn't just affect the people that immediately are in that disagreement that's grown into a quarrel. It then starts affecting the third party, right? Or the fourth or the fifth. So for instance, I bet some of us have been in a workplace where you looked over and you're trying to do your job well, and the whole team needs to do their job well, but let's say there's this lady here and she's not. She's kind of snapping at you and she's causing your day to be bad, and you find out that she had a fight with her boyfriend the night before, and you're like, wait a second, that fight wasn't my fault. But it's affecting me now, you know? You're hurting me, you're making the environment bad, you're not doing your job, you know? Or how many of us were in a school situation where you had that one kid that was always kind of pushing the envelope, causing some problems, getting into fights, getting into disagreements, you know? Or maybe that was you. Was that you? You know, and you remember in that classroom setting, you know, little kid, the teacher has had enough, and the teacher finally says, if you say one more word, you're getting detention. And said it to that kid. But you know what that kid did, right? Well, it's not my fault. Wait, it was there. You know, they had to say one more thing, and the whole class is like, for the love of God, just be quiet. Don't say anything, right? You know, please, if you love the Lord. You know, it's like, please. We even get in that situation sometimes at home. Sometimes you get in that situation where you just couldn't help it. Just had to say that one more thing because you were right. They were wrong, you know? And I was thinking about that as well. How many people in the world, all around the world, would ever say that on many, many different occasions, their opinion is wrong? Not too many of us, right? I mean, most of the time we're right, aren't we? I mean, I never really kind of think in my head, well, I'm probably wrong most of the time. No, I think I'm right most of the time. Well, if we're all right, why would you ever have disagreements? We'd all agree, right? Because you're right, you know, and it's like, wait, so no, there has to be a certain level of humility where we say, wait, there are sometimes conflicts that we can do something about, that are disagreements that could grow into quarrels, And that's going to hurt our relationship with other people. It's going to kind of put a lid on our relationship with God. It's going to hurt our ability to experience God's love. Let's own the fact that there are sometimes things that we need to own in our own life that we could do something about. Let's do something about that and then be able to have better relationships. So, in order to kind of get there, let's look at some different parts of Scripture. Proverbs chapter 20 is the first one. I'm going to go Proverbs 20, Proverbs 17, and then in a minute, we'll get over into Matthew 7. Proverbs 20. It is to one's honor to avoid strife, but every fool is quick to quarrel. How many of us want to be a fool? I'm not sure what I would have done if everybody would have been like, yeah, it sounds great, Fools have more fun. No, we don't want to be foolish. So then we want to then avoid strife. To avoid it, sometimes we have to own the fact that we can be prone to causing that kind of struggle, that kind of conflict. We might, in what we do or say, cause there to be a problem. The Orthodox Jewish Bible translates that last part of Proverbs 20, verse 3, this way. Any fool can start a quarrel. So he could say, every fool is quick to quarrel, any fool can start a quarrel, and we could do it right now. We could have somebody from the back of the sanctuary walk up here and pick one of these people, and within about 2.5 seconds, maybe 3 seconds, depending on who was walking from the back, they could smack you in the back of the head. That's all they'd have to do. And all of a sudden, we'd have a conflict, wouldn't we? We'd have a disagreement, right? That was not a kind thing to do. It would take no effort. You don't have to be skilled at anything. Your IQ, it does not matter. You could just come up here and start something. And that's just one little illustration of the fact that all of us can get in a situation where we say the thing that then causes a problem, or we did something, kind of get at somebody, or to show that we're right, or whatever. Any fool can do that. For parents, I have at times begged them for the sake of their children to just simply not say what's in their head. Now this seems like an easy thing, and at times I've been astounded at how difficult it is to convince people to do this, but just as an example, years and years ago, was not a part of this church or this community, there was a couple that I had performed their marriage, and it was a blended family, and they said all the right things, and on the outside, they seemed to really love each other, and they seemed to love each other's kids, and it was going to be great and wonderful. Everything seemed to be fine. But behind the scenes, they both were addicted to quarreling. What do you mean, Pastor? Well, they would individually tell me what the other person had said about them, and it was the meanest thing. Like when my dog has maybe the maddest and has messed on the ground in the house or something like that, I have never said such a mean thing to my dog that these people were saying to each other when they had covenanted before God to say, I love you more than anybody in the whole world. Really? But you said that? Like that was degrading, it was terrible, it was mean-spirited. But they would justify it, right? Well, I'm justified to say that because of what they're doing and what they're saying. So we justify our bad behavior. Any fool can do that. And so I begged them, hey, at least for even the sake of your kids, would you not say such a mean thing? Well, even when you're mad, just walk out of the room. Don't say it. Now, this is a low bar for marriage, isn't it? Like, don't say a hateful, spiteful thing to your spouse. Like, marriage is supposed to be like way up here, a high bar. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave his life for the church, right? That's in the Bible. Like, you're supposed to be willing to die for them and love them and serve them and everything else. Like, it's a low bar to say, hey, just don't call her something that your grandma would not approve of, right? Like, just don't say that. Like, I'm literally asking somebody to do nothing. And they wouldn't do it. Why? Because this quarreling thing can be addictive. And I bet you know what I mean. There's a certain adrenaline rush when you're in some kind of a conflict that can be a little bit addictive. Wait, I like getting my way. I like tearing that other person down. And you say, no, not me. Well, let's pick one of your favorite subjects that you feel very passionately about and you think that people that disagree with you are idiots and wrong and terrible, and then let's start talking about it, and you'll find we can start saying kind of hateful, judgmental things about those other people. We can. Let's start talking politics. What do you think, Evelyn? Wouldn't that be good? Just start talking politics right now. And let's see, how many of us start getting a little irritated about certain things or whatever. Or let's talk sports with some people. Does God really care who's going to win today? No, wait, it's not today, is it? Tomorrow? Monday, right? Final game. Auburn, Virginia, is that right? No? Texas Tech. See, I'm like so out of it. My teams are all losing, and so I'm like, goodness, God doesn't love my teams, right? So you see in sports where, you can disagree about certain things, but it can be fun then to start tearing down the other ones, right? And then you can start, really getting at it, and then yell at the referee, yell at the umpire. Why do people do that? Because we like to be right, and our justice, we want to be right. We want to tear them down. Then, think of all the things that people say to referees. Hey ref, you're missing a good game over here, right? It's like crazy, right? It's amazing. So let's admit, we like to be right. We, at times, might get a little bit of an adrenaline rush out of putting the other person in their place. Can't believe you voted for that person, right? It's just like, so if we step back and we say, okay, wait a second. Any fool can go to a place of disagreement that gets into sin. Proverbs 17:19 says, whoever loves a quarrel loves sin. Well, I thought I was just being feisty. Oh, let's just wait a second. Maybe there comes a point where we so badly want to be right that we become addicted to this sinful behavior that in order to make me feel better about my position, I've got to tear them down. And I want to dominate rather than to relate. So what causes fights and quarrels among you? That very question is in James chapter 4. I won't have it up on the screen, you can just listen. It says, what causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? Oh, but Lord, I'm always right. I just need to make sure everybody else knows it. Well, what's the desire that may be causing that friction? Well, they said that at Thanksgiving dinner, so I don't want to have anything ever to do with them. And God's like, what if I forgive them because their heart changes and you get to see them in heaven? What are you going to do then? You're like, oh, crud. Like, we're going to be together for eternity. Oh, no, wait a second. So I look at my heart and I say, wait a second. Is there something here that can change from the inside out that can then help that to be a different state of love and grace for each other? We can even divide as a church and as Christians. And this goes way, way, way back. In 1 Corinthians chapter 3, Paul is addressing the fact that different Christians are starting to have their favorite preachers. And that's okay on one hand, but then they start saying that one's better than the other and that they're better because they themselves are following this better teacher. So he writes, you are still worldly. For since there is jealousy and quarreling among you, are you not worldly? And remember, this is Paul who thinks that being worldly is not a good thing, because you can have something out of this world, God's Spirit, within you, and then have more fruit of that Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. That kind of stuff can start coming within you. So Paul's like, look, it's like you're not wanting that otherworldliness. You're just wanting to be kind of normal, which is not good. This is like arguing. So he says, for since there is jealousy and quarreling among you, are you not worldly? Are you not acting like mere humans? For when one says, I follow Paul, and another, I follow Apollos, it's another preacher in the same area, are you not mere human beings? He's like pleading with them. Look, man, so for us, we might say, which is better, being Methodist or Baptist? Cricket, 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 yeah. Loaded question. I'm not sure, yeah, we're Methodist in here, but, technically, but I'm not sure because I know he's going to say God loves us all. I know, where we're going with this, right? But in the church history, at times, different groups have fought, even literally, physically, killed each other over things. You're like, surely not, Jesus said that the greatest among you would be the servant of all. Like, surely not. Surely you wouldn't ever say in the name of Jesus, you Presbyterian are dirt, you're nothing, you know? But in the history of our faith, we realize that it's gotten perverted at times, and we've forgotten that which Jesus said, that we should serve one another in that way. The greatest will be the servant of all. Oh my goodness. Jesus himself, his strongest words were against people that were being hypocrites, who were looking down on other people, judging them when they themselves had issues. You look at what Jesus said, and when he got the angriest, it was at that kind of person. It wasn't at the person that was saying, you know what, I'm a mess, and I need help, and I need to get back on the right track, and I need to love people better. Jesus was gentle and kind with those people, and he's encouraging of them. It was great. So I would then put these terms kind of in contrast. Relation over domination. That when you get into a situation where you've got a disagreement, you're trying to figure out, how then should I act? This is an interesting image. Our tendency, even as toddlers, when you have a nice little thing there that you like, and kids a lot of times like juice. I know some of us are like, you should never give a kid juice. They sure like it. We know that, right? It's like, okay. So the little toddler has a little thing of juice, and the toddler a lot of times is going to say, what? Mine. How many of you, that was your first word? Wasn't mama, dada, God? It was like, mine. And that probably was mine too. Mine. So the tendency then is not necessarily to share. What about dogs and human food? Do you have a dog that likes human food? Yeah. Do you ever drop a piece of bacon and, Rover is over there? Rover is like 30 feet away. You've only got to reach down 3 feet. And somehow Rover can make that 30 feet up faster than you can make the 3 feet to get that human food, right? So in this situation, this ought to be a real fight, toddler versus dog. And instead, the toddler is like, oh, I like the juice. Hey, would you like some juice? Right? And the dog is like, I'm waiting my turn, and now I'm having the juice. Now, why do I put that up there? Because sometimes for us to say, what would Jesus do in this situation is tough. I mean, that's like, this is a high bar. I'm not sure I could ever even get there. Well, how about even acting like a good toddler? Because you've seen that once in a while. A little kid will be like, has 5 M&Ms, and then is like, oh, want one? Whenever I see that, I'm like, that's the image of God, because by nature, the kid may not want to share. But somehow the divine image of God, creating the image of God, the kid's like, I'll share. Why not? It's a beautiful, beautiful image. So as we kind of think about this, we think, okay, in the relationships that I have, when I'm tempted to want to dominate, prove I'm right, tear them down, judge them mercilessly, could I look at this and say, wait a second, I'm going to try to relate instead of the fighting, instead of the domination that could happen. Jesus, I promised to get to Matthew 7. Here it is. Matthew 7. Jesus said, in the same way that you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Little toddler with the juice. The measure that toddler uses, it's mine. You can run away. I don't care. I might even bop you with the with the juice, right? Or is it, I have something that's beautiful and wonderful. I'm going to share it with other people. I'm going to share. That's part of a measure. I'm going to admit that sometimes I'm wrong. I mean, it's not very often. But, maybe it's pretty often. I'm going to admit that, and instead of trying to dominate with my position, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to stand firm on what I believe. However, I'm not going to try to dominate you. I'm going to try to relate to you. I'm going to try to serve you. Jesus said the greatest among me would be a servant. So the way that I'm going to measure my action to you is going to be extravagant love, grace, generosity. It's what I'm called to do. I'm going to try then to judge people in a non-judgmental way. Well, how do you do that? Well, I'll give you an example. There's somebody in my family's life, it's affecting our family, that I've probably been judging in a pretty harsh way because he's ticking me off, right? And I think about that and I think, well, wait a second. I don't know his upbringing I don't know what's going on at home. I don't know what kind of influences have been on his life. I don't know if he's fighting some medical condition that I don't know about. I mean, we could go on and on and on about all the different things that I should probably be taking into account when I think about his behavior, and humble myself and say, I'm going to still try to serve him. And with the measure I'm going to use, I'm going to err on the side of grace. Maybe he's just a jerk, but maybe there are other things at play. I should not play God, but I should say, wait, I'm going to extend grace, forgiveness, reconciliation, and not try to dominate with my position. Does that make sense? Not always easy. Not always easy. But I think about that. When we come into God's presence someday, and hopefully it's not today, in terms of dying, being in God's presence, right? Everybody feeling okay? Let's just gut check, make sure we're all okay, all right? Your neighbor's sleeping, you're like, wait, are they alive? Where's the mirror? Let's put it on, So when we see God face to face, and if that is a true statement that Jesus made, wouldn't it be nice to hear from God something like, Nathan, Betty, Joe, Jim, whatever your name is, right? I'll say Nathan. You really extended love and forgiveness to people. And certain times you could have gotten all upset, you could have fought back real hard and tried to prove your point, tried to tear them down. And instead you said, I feel strongly about what I believe, but I'm going to extend grace, I'm going to extend love and forgiveness to them. Nathan, you know what? That's the way I'm going to treat you. You made a mistake here or there. But I'm going to extend love and grace to you. Because that's what you... Now, in my opinion, I think God's always trying to extend love and grace to us, and we're accepting it or rejecting it, I'm not sure that God's going to be like, wait a second, since you were a jerk, now I'm going to be a jerk back to you. I'm not sure that's the right way to interpret that. You know what I mean? I think it's more like by extending harsh judgment to other people and acting like the judge or acting like we've got to make ourselves feel better by putting them down, it's like, again, we're lidding ourselves. We're putting a lid on our ability to experience God's love and grace. But instead, if we start saying, wait, I don't know where they're coming from, I don't know what's going on. I had a teenager recently tell me that when they're driving around, they've tried to start telling themselves when somebody's going really, really slow and it's irritating, and other people are like wanting to honk and be like, wait. He said, I start thinking, maybe they're sick. Or maybe their eyes don't work real well, and so they're having to be extra careful. Or maybe, their reaction time isn't really good, so they're being extra careful. And I was like, a teenager is saying this. Like, how cool is that? I was like, that's extending grace to other people in a real-life way that's going to prevent this kind of quarreling, even from car to car. I love that. It was beautiful. So in the midst of that, then, we think about that. So let's get even more practical. Again, trying to extend that kind of way of being with others that Jesus is teaching. Another image would be a golden retriever and a person, kind of man's best friend, right? I don't know. You women, what's your best friend? It's not dog. What's? I don't know. No, it's generic, right? These are humans' best friends. So let's say that sometimes asking, would Jesus do this or not, may be hard for us to understand, especially if you didn't grow up a Christian, you're trying to figure this out. Let's start the bar even lower. Would a dog do this or say this? Would a golden retriever do this or say this to that other person? Or would that dog kind of come up and try to lick them and kind of, whatever, be with them? You know what I mean? Like, let's start the bar low and then build up to ultimate Christ-likeness. Another way to put it would be, would grandma be okay with the way I'm talking about that or that person, And you're like, well, you don't know my grandma, man. She's got a potty mouth and she's feisty. And no. A lot of grandmas they care about their grandkids. They want them to act the right way, right? So you kind of check yourself, time out. Would grandma be happy with what I'm saying? Would grandma be happy with the way that I'm talking about this other people? So you got a couple of questions that you could ask yourself, Would a golden retriever do this? How would a golden retriever react? Would grandma be happy with what I'm doing, what I'm saying? Another one would be, this is the third one. Would a true friend say this? Would a true friend do this? And you're like, well, I don't even like the person, so how can I imagine being their friend? Well, I bet you can. I bet you can imagine it. If I was their friend, really caring about them, really loving them, we go way back, you know? We used to do things cool together back when we were kids, right? If a true friend was there, would a friend say what I'm about to say and do what I'm about to do? It's going to be wonderful to kind of check ourselves, and we're going to start acting with more grace because we're going to kind of say, whoa, wait a second, God, I need your help. I'm about to do something or say something Grandma would not approve of. I know what she would say. She'd say, don't judge those people. You know, oh my gosh, I was about to say this to my kid because I'm really mad at my kid, but Golden Retriever wouldn't do that or say that. God, do something miraculous in my heart. Change me from the inside out. Help me to love with that kind of grace. And then God's like, I'm in the business of helping you to be more grace-filled. That's why one of the best songs ever was Amazing Grace. It wasn't Amazing Guilt and Condemnation, right? You know? I mean, think about that. Why is it powerful? Because we need it. It changes us from the inside out. When we receive Holy Communion, we call it communion because we literally want to commune with God. We need God's Spirit to help us from the inside out, to extend grace to other students and people around us and family members and spouses. Err on the side of grace. Whew. Let's pray for a moment. So God, we need your help deep within. Eating the bread and drinking the juice from the cup, those elements are coming inside of us, which reminds us that we need your Spirit inside of us to change our heart, to change our mind from the inside out, so that then when we react to people at home, our friends, other people, the referee we don't like, whatever it is, Lord, help us to be able to react with more grace. I need this as much as anybody and more than a lot. So God, would you commune with us deep within? We confess our own sin that separates us from you, and so forgive us, clean us, fill us with your love and your Spirit. We want to receive you, commune with you in this holy action. Bless the bread, bless the cups.